Hey guys, welcome to my series about how to deal with different students on priority hour on Cambly. So today I'm going to be talking you through how to deal with children on your priority hours. So if you're like me and you just teach on regular Cambly and not Cambly kids, we have the problem that we have lack of materials when it comes to teaching children. So when a child arrives on priority hour and we have to keep them engaged, it can be a real struggle. Some kids' parents watch the lesson, which can be useful because then the kids stay focused, but others simply just leave the kids to it. I've been abandoned in a corner several times halfway through lessons. But luckily, I've figured out some pretty much foolproof ways of letting them practice their English without boring them, which is quite hard to strike. The first thing I always do is check if the kid has the resources to open a whiteboard. Some of them might be too young to be able to open a link. But if they can, I use whiteboardfox.com because it has loads more features than the Cambly whiteboard. They can import pictures, they can use different colors. And once you have that open, you're basically sorted because kids are very visual learners and they all love Pictionary. So you draw a cat and you ask them what it is, then ask them to draw an animal, and you have to guess what it is. Make funny guesses. If it's a dog, you should ask if it's a banana. That way you can go through various topics. So the ones I always have written down to go through are food, animals, weather, hobbies, and objects. If you want to take it to the next level, if you think it's a bit too easy for the child you're teaching, then you can begin to incorporate structures into your Pictionary. So for example, if you're drawing a food, you can ask them, do you like pizza? And you get them to say, yes, I do, or no, I don't. And then you can maybe draw some broccoli and try and get them to say, yes, I do, or no, I don't. And then for hobbies, you can teach them, for example, I can swim or I can't swim, for example. What I always do is I always identify 2 or 3 new words that they haven't learned before throughout the lesson. And then in the last 5 minutes, get them to repeat those words, sorry. So if their parents are watching or something, they get a sense that their child is learning at least a couple of new vocabulary from your lesson. Now, if the student can't open the whiteboard for some reason, you can still teach the structures, but the lack of visual content makes it a little bit more difficult, especially if the child doesn't have experience of learning English in this context. So that's why I always open a class with a game of can you see something? So you can go through all the colors this way. So can you see something red? And they'll run off and they'll find something red. Or you say, can you see something yellow? And then they'll go off and find something yellow. And this will keep them engaged for about 10 minutes and hopefully running around a lot. So by the time you start asking questions about family and hobbies, they won't get bored so easily. And the thing is, you have to try and stay animated, no matter how unenthusiastic the kid is, which is kind of embarrassing. And use TPR if you're familiar with it. If you're not familiar with TPR, simply clapping on the syllables of new words helps them assimilate better than just listening and repeating. So for example, instead of just saying elephant, you say elephant and get them to clap along. Obviously these tips are for slightly younger kids with a lower level of English. You'll often find kids who have an amazing level of English. And in that case, I prefer to treat them more like an adult student, playing a quick game of Pictionary, maybe with some advanced words, and then moving on to an intermediate level Engu article, because on Engu Daily News, the intermediate levels are quite easy. So every child is different. Some will want to talk more, others will need more structure, and it's important you kind of judge that early on in the class, which is why games and these kind of fun activities can kind of give you time to judge their level and see what they're capable of. And finally, don't worry if the lesson just falls flat. Sometimes kids are kind of forced to go on Cambly by their parents after a long day at school, and they're just not having it, and that's not your fault. You know, it's very natural. And so thanks so much for listening. I hope this helps you deal with those unexpected children on your priority hours. If you have any other ideas, throw them in the comments because I always want new ideas as well. And next time I'm going to be talking about the last group you're likely to find on a priority hour, which are really these like very advanced students that will make you feel like you're back in school again. Thanks very much.